Grip strength. It's a topic I haven't covered before, and I have so much to say about it that I think I'm going to make a few different videos. There are actually a lot of ways that you can specialize in grip strength. There are specific movement patterns you can focus on, specific muscles, and how you choose to organize that in your training is going to depend largely on what your goals are. Real quick, guys, I have a sincere favor to ask. If you found any of this helpful and you are not subscribed, please consider subscribing. I have a challenge for when I hit 100,000 subs coming up. I'm going to chase a 100 rep max. It's going to be a bloodbath. That happens as soon as I hit 100K followers. So help me get to that goal. Thanks so much for your support, guys. It means absolutely everything to me. So we're going to do a broad introduction to grip strength, some of the different movement patterns, and some of the common training applications. And then I'm going to get into how you should structure those exercises depending specifically on what your goals are. Somebody who is trying to be an arm wrestler, probably not going to do the exact same things as somebody who just needs a good grip for strongman, or somebody who just wants a meaty pair of forearms to fill out their physique. So first things first are the different types of movement patterns. I have put broadly the three most common ones that you're going to see in training. Now, if you Google grip strength or types of grip strength, the three that you normally see talked about is crushing, pinching, and supporting strength, but I have supporting strength off as something else. Supporting strength is essentially just the recognition that when you're holding something, whether you're holding onto a heavy pair of dumbbells, you're doing a farmer's walk, you're hanging from the edge of a cliff, that activity is different than if you're actively trying to close your fingers around something. So that's not necessarily a different movement pattern. It's a different training threshold. It's a difference between concentric, eccentric, isometric. So it's an important distinction, but I think it's more productive to break things off based on how the hand actually moves. And all of those things can be trained in an isometric fashion to improve your supporting strength. So we're gonna get to that. But let's start off with the different movement patterns. Crushing strength is pretty self-explanatory. Grab a tennis ball, squeeze it as hard as you can, try to make it explode in your hands. That is crushing strength. That's what's going to concern most lifters. If you're interested in grip strength just so that you can get through your workouts or so that you can pick up heavier things, so you don't drop your deadlifts at the top at a powerlifting meet, crushing strength tends to be the thing that carries over the most of that. It has a lot more to do with finger flexion, getting your fingers to close to wrap around something, and it's pretty straightforward to train. Some of the easiest ways to train crushing strength, to increase your ability to actually close your fingers around something, are Iron Mind's Captain of Crush grippers. There are a lot of grippers out there, and Iron Mind is just associated with like the gold standard of grip training. They have a lot of fantastic grip items, and I'm going to link those in the description as you go. At the end, I'm going to give you like a list of what I think the minimalist tool set for grip strength is, so you don't have to go out and buy every single bell and whistle, but I will link those in the description. The Captains of Crush are great because they are standardized. They're knurled, so they're very easy to hold on to. There are graduated weight increments that are universal. You can get certified if you can close the number 3 or, God help you, the number 4. There's also some attachments for the Iron Mind grippers I'm going to talk about later that are actually extremely helpful. But I really like the grippers. You can start with the trainer, which is very light. I like it to get blood in my hands. I actually like it as a rehab tool or to warm my hands and wrist up. And then the number 1 and number 2, appropriate for most people. They even started coming out with increments, which is really helpful. So you can get a 1.5, a 2.5 to help bridge the gap to those next grippers. And for the people that fall in love with it, that chase those numbers, they end up getting really strong hands. But you have to take it seriously. That does comprise its own type of training. So you have to ask yourself, are you passionate enough about grip training to actually put those into practice? Another trick, and this is one that you don't see very often, towel work. Now, I did see Travis Bagent, the arm wrestler, talk about carrying around a towel and just squeezing it passively. A lot of arm wrestlers and a lot of grip guys will find passive things to do throughout their day, whether it's like rubber balls that they just squeeze while they're driving around, or really light grippers that they click for hundreds of reps throughout the day. But towel work is interesting. It reminds me of accommodating resistance. When I talk about doing like bicep and tricep work with bands, there's something about the tension increasing as you go through a range of motion that just increases the intensity so much. It pumps the muscle up, creates a ton of fatigue, and towels kind of have that quality. Anything that has some give to it where you can squeeze harder and harder and harder as the resistance increases, it's just a devastating stimulus. So you can just grab a thick towel, and some guys will wring out wet towels, squeezing as hard as they can. Another trick that I haven't really seen anybody else do, I have used in the past, is to take a really thick, meaty bath hand towel and wrap it around a barbell or wrap it around the dumbbells and use it to squeeze. So while you're doing curls or while you're doing your rows, you're squeezing as hard as you can. Your forearms will light up. They will just be on fire. And what you're doing is conditioning yourself to dig your fingers in and to build more and more resistance over time. So it's a really good way to increase crushing strength. There's also the Ironmind Rolling Thunder, and there's a couple of companies that put out similar things. The unique thing about it is that it's thick, but also that it rolls freely. So you can't really use the friction of your skin to get into it, to hold it. So when you do picks with the Rolling Thunder, it feels like it constantly wants to roll out of your hand. Now that trains a couple different aspects of grip strength, but you do need to squeeze extremely hard in order to support the weight enough to pick it up off the ground. It's a good way to train for the inch dumbbell. For those of you that don't know, the inch dumbbell is a feat of grip strength because picking it up with one hand means that you can not only can you pick up 170 pounds, but it's a very thick handle and the weight is offset, meaning when you pick it up, it wants to roll. So the Rolling Thunder is a very economical way to try to train for that. And all of these increase your crushing strength. Now, if you take any one of these, you apply it, you get better over time, you're gonna notice you have an easier time holding on to just about anything. Pinching is the next specific type of grip work where you bring your thumb to your fingers. There's a lot of practical applications of that. Anybody who's worked with their hands, people that have to spend their days like tightening bolts with their fingers, develop just killer pinch grip strength. When the fingers and thumbs get strong enough, you can do cool things like bending bottle caps between your fingers, which is a fun bar trick. Now, pinch gripping strength is a little more specialized. It's just bringing your thumb to your fingers. There is a whole realm of grip-specific feats of strength that involve pinch gripping, and that if you want to get good at those, you absolutely have to focus on this. I primarily use pinch gripping as kind of an accessory to grip strength. I have done things like plate pinches in the past where you just take two plates, face them together, grab the smooth sides, and you do picks, you can do reps, you can do holds. If you put a loading pin in the middle, you can slap on extra weight so you can load the plate pinches that way. And I have found those to be very, very helpful for just generally rounding out my grip strength. Most of you are not going to need to specialize in pinch gripping. It's not going to do as much for your forearm girth. It's not going to do as much for your crushing strength. It is a very specific type of strength. But when you see somebody who can do card or phone book tearing, where they can take a phone book and rip it in half, that requires very, very strong thumbs and a very strong pinch, and that's something you do have to train specifically. Some of the ways to get there, aside from just stocking up on magazines, old phone books, if you can even find them anymore, they're going extinct, or playing cards and tearing them, that by itself is very good practice, and there's books on that that can kind of give you strategies, training methodologies. But also Ironmind has a couple of products that are just really good to load that if you're interested in it. The hub pinch simulates picking up the hub of a plate, which is an old-timey feat of strength. Some of the deep dish plates that had sloped in hubs were extremely hard to pick up. And you get guys that can not only pick it up with one hand, but they can actually pick it up and load it onto the barbell, which is just some next level stuff. But hub pinching is a great way to train your thumb and get your pinching stronger. Also, Ironmind has a pinch grip block. It's a very simple metal block. You do timed holds, and it's a great way to get that thumb stronger. Now, this is what many of you probably have the most experience with, and that's with direct wrist work, flexion and extension. Now, extension is very important for keeping your elbow healthy. You're working the antagonist muscles. If all you're doing is flexion, crushing, everything on this side of your hand and forearm is getting worked, all of this is getting neglected. That's very important supportive musculature to your hand, wrist, forearm. So just like you want your back strong to be able to bench big, you want to be balanced out. Same goes for your grip. So wrist extension is a very easy way to try to get those supportive muscles fleshed out. And that's something as simple as a reverse wrist curl. You can take a pair of dumbbells, sit on a bench, hang your wrists off the edge of your knees, and you can do wrist curls like that. It's very easy. You get a pump really quick. I also like reverse curls. Reverse curls are a very easy option to do that. Now, wrist flexion, in the beginning, will help get your grip a bit stronger. It by itself is a pretty good exercise, but you're not going to get a specialized grip. You're not going to get a very, very strong grip just by doing wrist curls. Guys that get really, really heavy on wrist curls are either going for big, fat, meaty forearms for aesthetics, or they're arm wrestlers who really need to be able to bring that wrist in. but that doesn't have a ton to do with your actual crushing strength, which is important if you want to hold on to heavy barbells and dumbbells. So very easy to train a barbell or dumbbell for curls. You can go very heavy, you can go very light, do a lot of reps, or you can just do a wrist roller. And the great thing about that is you don't need something that's overbuilt. I believe Iron Mind has an option, but you can find any cheap wrist roller. It doesn't have to be heavy duty. I've actually made one by taking a broomstick and drilling a screw in it and wrapping some string around it and looping that through a weight plate. You don't need a lot of weight. As you roll up and then roll down to release under control, your forearms just cook, and the longer you take that out, the more conditioned, the bigger and stronger those muscles will become. And this is also something good to keep in, again, for just elbow health, wrist health. It will help keep the tendon stronger. It'll get blood in. It's restorative. So it's really important to throw those in on a regular basis. Don't go too long with neglecting these because a little bit goes a long way. Now, supporting strength is hugely important, and this is what most of you are going to actively need. Going through the full range of motion can absolutely get those muscles stronger, but if you want strong supporting strength, you have to specialize in it. Whether you're a rock climber who's going to be hanging off the edge of a cliff with one arm, like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible 2, or whether you compete in arm lifting, where you have to support the weight long enough to pick it up off the ground and get a good lift, farmer walks and strongman, not dropping deadlifts and powerlifting, most of you need good supporting strength. And that's really just isometric strength. You can get very, very, very strong with a closed fist or when you're wrapped around an object holding it in position without necessarily overdeveloping your crushing or pinching strength. So it's important to know down the road that that's what you want, that's what you have to train. Now, one of the easiest ways to get this for most of you who aren't likely to prioritize a bunch of direct grip work, I fell into that camp. I didn't care about grip work enough to do it regularly day to day. I would forget about it. I'd buy all the stuff and then it would never get used. I had the most success doing things that were passive. So things like using a fat bar in place of a regular barbell for things like arm work or rows. Very easy substitution to make. It doesn't have to be your whole workout, but if you swap one exercise for a fat bar and focus on squeezing, it is a great stimulus for general hand, wrist, forearm strength. And you can even get fat grips. Fat grips are a very useful tool. Just commit to using it for one exercise out of your arm exercise or for one rowing movement out of all of your upper back work. And that's going to be enough to stimulate some growth in your hands. Strapless accessory work. Now that's something I get a lot of questions about because there's some guys who think throwing on straps is completely taboo. No doubt if you never use straps, your hands will keep pace and they will get stronger over time. However, there are some movements that only work when you can overload them. If your grip is the limiting factor on your deadlift, you're not going to be sufficiently training your hamstrings, glutes, midsection, or upper back. So you have to understand where to choose your battles with that one. The thing that I consider is that you don't need every single set you ever do to be done strapless in order to derive the benefit. So I do all of my warm-ups and usually all of my back off sets without straps, and I'll really only strap up for the heaviest set of rows or the heaviest set of deadlifts. For general upper back work, I'm doing machines, I'm doing dumbbells, and for most of that stuff, I don't use straps, so it adds up to a lot of volume throughout the week. So don't obsess over using straps. You can get very, very strong hands while still using straps on some of your heavier movements so you can drive those benefits. Now, the easiest way to use supporting strength for most of you is to just throw one of these in at the end of your workout. Farmer walks, dumbbell holds, and hangs. Those are all isometric supporting strength movements. Farmer walks, yes, you can get a pair of handles. An economy plate loaded pair is pretty easy to get, but you don't have to do that. If you're not a strongman, you can get a lot out of just doing dumbbell farmer walks. It's a great way to train your grip. And I actually recommend for grip strength going farther. Most people want to load up. I recommend distance, endurance, time, get past that 1 minute threshold. Go 300 or 400 feet on your farmer walks. You'll be surprised what 70, 80, or 90-pound dumbbells will do when you're trying to go 400 feet without dropping them. So you don't have to go heavy. You don't have to do overloaded farmer walks. Dumbbell holds, you can just stand and hold for time. A little more monotonous, but it works. And I actually like to do those with fat grips, and I also like to do them with the weight in my fingertips. So you can kind of work your hands from different angles in that way, and that works really well. And you'll see a direct correlation. Workout to workout, you'll be able to hold longer, and that's going to correlate to a more secure grip on all of the other implements you're using and lifting throughout your workouts. And then dead hangs. And I like those because you can do them anywhere, and it's actually pretty good for shoulder and spine health. And you can focus on accruing just a total amount of time, trying to hang longer, trying to do more rounds throughout the day. And that's another one that improves very, very quickly, very easily. You just have to prioritize. That's one that benefits from little frequency hacks, Like guys used to hang pull-up bars in the doorway, and then every time they'd walk through that door, they'd do so many pull-ups. You do the same thing with hangs. Like every time you walk under the door, just grab onto the pull-up bar, just let yourself hang for 15 seconds and then go about your day. Hangs are very easy to implement, very easy to recover from, great exercise that will make your hands stronger in most of the ways that you need them. Now, of course, I didn't get into more specific movement patterns, things arm wrestlers need to worry about, like pronation and supination or cupping strength, and I am going to get into those in the future, but those are very specialized. Most of you don't need to worry about that. I recommend for the person who is concerned about their grip, but knows that they're not going to spend hours out of the week doing 100 different exercises, the big things you want to worry about: strapless accessory work and regular holds. That is the easiest way to get strong hands. And if you are looking for a couple of things to augment your training and boost it up, I strongly recommend getting a pair of fat grips and a few of the lighter pairs of Captain and Crush grippers to get your feet wet. The Captains of Crush grippers have a really cool tool for supporting grip strength, which is a silver bullet. And it's a little implement that you squeeze, so you pinch it with the grippers and you have to hold it in place with a weight that hangs from it. And you know that you've lost your supporting grip strength in that round when the weight drops. And you can progress it forward for time, you can add more weight. It's a really cool way to get a little bit more out of the grippers, and I find that that has a lot more carryover to things that I need, like holding on to deadlifts and farmer walks, than actively going through the crushing cycle. So I really like that. It's a really useful tool. So I recommend the Captains of Crush grippers, I recommend the Silver Bullet, and I recommend a pair of fat grips. And that's more than enough to spice up your training. If you get a little more excited and you want to take it a little farther, you can absolutely look into getting the hub and pinch grip blocks and the rolling thunders. But easy stuff like wrapping towels around the barbells, holding onto the weights without straps, that stuff goes a long way. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Leave your questions and comments in the comments section, or better yet, take them to Patreon. Remember, that is where I upload my workouts daily with commentary, so you get to see how I put this stuff into action on a daily basis. Until next time, this is Bromley. I'll see ya.